Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Township Meeting of January 9th, 2020. Adequate notice of this January 9th, 2020 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and agenda on the meeting of the bulletin board in the municipal building, 1000 Route 10, Township of Hanover, and by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County Daily Record, the Star Ledger, Hanover Eagle, and by filing the same with the Township Clerk.
On roll call, Committeeman Gallagher.
Here.
Committeeman Mahalko.
Here.
Committeeman Cahill.
Here.
Mayor Francioli is away on vacation, and Deputy Mayor Faramasca as chair.
Here.
4 members in attendance, sir.
At this time, for those who can stand, I'd like to lead in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Committeeman Gallagher, will you please lead us in the Township Committee prayer?
Yes. Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Amen. Okay. At this point in our meeting, we would like to open this part of the meeting to the public. May I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. At this time, any members of the public would like to address the Township Committee, please come and rise, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Irvin Oros. Joe Giorgio invited me tonight to present the housing rehab program. I'm the consultant from Rehabco. It's a part of your affordable housing obligation. I think I was retained a couple of months ago. I just want to give an overall view of the program and also hand out some applications to the press. As you know, there is an obligation of, I think, between 6 and 10 overall housing rehab units throughout the community that applicants can apply to my office. Based on the income eligibility, we'll rank the applications. We will send our inspectors out to perform an inspection for all health and safety and code violations. We have between $15,000 and $20,000 per unit. The units will be put out to bid to local contractors. The work is done, contracts are signed. There's a lien mortgage against the property for 10 years in case they sell the home. The project is then paid to the contractors and we move on to the next unit. So I just wanted to say hello tonight to a Township Committee, introduce myself, the firm Rehabco down at Brick Township, which is also very good because being out of town, there is a screen between the Township officials or the Township proper and our office in terms of the screening of the applicants and whatnot. We have direct communication with the applicants as they go through. The contracts are signed here with the local contractors here in City Hall. I've been doing this for 35 years. I think my father did one of the master plans here in the 1970s. So it's good to be back, and Happy New Year all. If you have any questions, I'm here for that. I also brought a number of applications with me. The income brackets are here in terms of what the numbers are for qualifications. For instance, a family of 1 would be $56,430, and a family of 10 would be $119,269. These applications are also available online, but I brought some paper ones here as well. So any questions that you might have?
Any members of the committee or Township professionals have any questions? Seeing none, we thank you.
Thank you.
For coming out this evening.
Of course.
and
Happy New Year.
Introducing yourself.
Where should I, Joe, I guess I'll give you the pile of applications.
Sure,
and
that'd be fine.
And if there's
Thanks,
anybody here from the press.
Right here in the front.
I just gave him one before.
Okay, good.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Okay, if there's any other members of the public who have any questions or want to address the Township Committee, now's the time. Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close this portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Giorgio.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On communications, we have a submission of the following letter, and it's addressed to Captain White. I am writing to you today to respectfully put in my notice for resignation, starting today, December 30th, and ending January 12th. I would also like to thank you, Chief Roddy, and the rest of the Hanover Township Police Department for granting me gainful employment. The bonds and friendships I have made at this department will not be forgotten. Furthermore, I would like to inquire about being a part diem dispatcher, which can be discussed at a later time. If there is anything else you need, don't hesitate to ask. Respectfully submitted, Joseph DeFinis Jr., civilian police dispatcher, and he is taking on a position as a firefighter with the West Orange Fire Department. So may we have a motion to accept his letter
So
of
moved.
resignation?
Second.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
And we
So
wish-
approved.
And we wish Mr. DeFinis all the best in his new responsibilities as a firefighter in West Orange.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with the next item of business, we have the approval of the Township Committee regular minutes for December 12th, 23rd, 2019, and January 3rd. May we have a motion on the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Faramaska.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska. As we continue, ladies and gentlemen, we have one ordinance for introduction. It's ordinance number 1-2020, amending and supplementing section 125-4, entitled Recreation Department Fees, under Chapter 125 of the Code of the Township, entitled Fees, with the inclusion of new resident and non-resident Bee Meadow Swimming Pool membership fees for the year 2020, and new fees related to various Recreation and Park Administration Department programs and activities. And these are recommendations that came from the Board of Recreation Commissioners through Denise Brennan, our superintendent, by memorandum dated January the 8th. This ordinance will be further considered for public hearing and final passage at the Township Committee meeting on February 13th at 8 p.m. here in the main meeting room. And at that time, any resident, member of the public wishing to be heard concerning the ordinance will be given the opportunity to be heard. The ordinance and the notice of introduction will be published in full in the Daily Record in accordance with law. So at this time, may we have a motion for introduction?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Mahalko, seconded by Mr. Cahill. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
So introduced once again. The public hearing date is February 13th at 8 p.m. We now have item number 8, resolutions as a consent agenda on page 1 and 2. Are there any questions from members of the governing body concerning any of those resolutions? Hearing none, may we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Gallagher,
Second.
second by Mr. Faramaska. On the consent agenda resolutions, we have the motion, seconded. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Payment of bills, $4,484,638.14. May we have a motion on the approval of the payment of bills?
Motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by Mr. Cahill, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
So approved. Raffle applications, we have 3, which are listed there. Interfaith Food Pantry, 2, and Our Lady of Mercy. May we have a motion for approval?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Mahalko,
Second.
second by Mr. Cahill. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, that clears the agenda of the Business Administrator, Township Clerk,
Great
and I
job,
thank you.
Mr. Giorgio, very impressive. Okay. At this portion of our meeting, I'd like to have a motion to reopen to the public.
So moved.
Okay, at this time, if there's any member of the public who has a question of the Township Committee or has a statement, please come to the podium and state your name and address,
And we
please.
have a 4-minute rule in effect.
Hi there, Terry Beard, 180 Parsippany Road in the Whippany section of Hanover. I But I'd like to ask a couple questions in reference to the last meeting, the reorganization meeting on January 3rd. I've watched the video several times, and I'm still slightly confused, so I'm hoping that you can clear a couple of things up for me. The mayor spoke about a smooth transition of something about retiring the chair and something to do with the budget process. So, when is the budget process ending? Like, when is the budget process?
It could be any time in March or April.
Okay?
We have deadlines established by the state. We normally introduce and adopt the budget even before the deadlines are established by the state, but depends on what is discussed and when it is discussed by the Township Committee.
Okay, all right. I also, further on, he spoke about putting, because he spoke about the rotation or the lack of rotation, and putting a method into place. Could you please explain to me what the method in place is?
I think that was, each of us are equal members of the Township Committee. And I think he was expressing his perspective. He wasn't speaking on behalf of the entire Township Committee with his commentary. So I can't elaborate more as to what that is, because I don't know if anybody knows what that means. But
No, I think you're right. I think he took that out of portions of the discussions that we had while in caucus. And again, open to interpretation, I guess. But yeah, you'd really have to ask him.
Okay, so in the future, from now to going into the future, we can expect Mayor Franzoli to retire from the chair, correct? And then other people would be nominated to be the mayor, and so you would go through that whole caucus process again in order to choose a mayor and deputy mayor for the town?
I believe that the Township Committee has addressed that issue in terms of the succession plan. So I think that that's clear as to what we would be doing. We have come to an agreement from the caucus on how that would transpire.
Okay, so you've already decided who's just,
Yes.
and then at the right time will be notified?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and we would expect that, right, this would become at the end of the budget, when the budget's approved, or, because I guess I'm a little confused, because as you're all equal members, I don't understand why the mayor would have to stay on as mayor through the budget process when you're all equal members.
The mayor serves in terms of, part of his responsibilities is for financial and administration. None of us, committee members who are here tonight, have that responsibility. So he is, from a transition standpoint, fulfilling one of his big responsibilities in terms of shepherding through the budget process, guiding the committee through that process, and ensuring, working with our CFO, that it is met and approved by the state.
Okay, and then we just look at the minutes or the agendas to see about when the budget, how the budget process is moving along, or will there be something on the website saying how far along the budget process is?
Well, I can tell you that the Township Committee will hold its budget work session on Saturday morning, February the 1st, in Conference Room A. That budget work session is open to the public. However, portions of that meeting will be closed when personnel or legal issues are discussed, but it's open to the public starting at 8:30 in the morning. That begins the formal budget process. There could be other budget meetings held by the Township Committee, but that remains to be seen based on what is decided at the meeting on Saturday, February the 1st.
Okay,
But that is the beginning of the budget, the formal budget work session.
okay,
Or
all right.
process, I should say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the governing body?
Good evening, Christopher Matisich, 32 Sunset Drive in Whippany. Hello, everybody. I have a couple questions that I wanted to run through. I'm trying to think of some ideas for some issues the town might have in the future with increased population. For our weekly garbage disposal, does the town pay a company a fixed rate to handle all the garbage for the whole town? How's that?
We have, fortunately, in Hanover Township, we have municipal trash collection. So that is actually an in-house function, and as a result of that in-house function, our residents do not have to pay an outside carting bill. Their taxes payments cover the municipal collection of the trash.
Do we, would it be beneficial if there was less trash collected, or it doesn't really matter the quantity?
Is there, I'm sorry?
My idea was composting is something that I started doing at home 2 years ago, and I was able to reduce my household trash quantity from maybe like 30 gallons a week down to like 12.
Wow.
And just putting stuff into the compost bin behind my own house. And so my idea was to get compost bins for the single-family homes in the town and either get them at cost through one of our businesses like Walmart or something, or have, if it saves us money in the long run, have us purchase them and offer them free, like we're doing with the tree giveaway.
Right.
And it's going to take like convincing people to actually do it. It's kind of annoying, but after a while, for me, it became just habit. And one thing I learned just this last week was that shredded paper can't be recycled, which is unfortunate, but it can be composted if it's just non-glossy white paper. So that would really reduce the town's overall quantity of garbage in the long run. So if it's something that would help us financially to save money, it might be worth offering compost bins to people for free.
I think it's an innovative idea. I think that I would ask if you could take time to bring that idea to the Environmental Commission.
Mm-hmm.
They meet normally on the first Monday of the month at 7 o'clock in the library, in the meeting room at the library. But I think
Okay.
bringing them that idea, which you have, would be a welcome discussion point.
Okay.
And they have a very active group that's trying to advance environmental initiatives, and I think that's a worthy discussion point with them.
Okay, I'll do that. My second thing was I do a lot of bike riding around town, and I started bringing a plastic bag with me every time I go because I'm just constantly picking up garbage off the side of the roads. One of my questions was, does the town ever do like volunteer road cleanups? Do we ever like have people gather and?
Yes, in sporadically, not on a regular planned basis. There are groups within the town that take on the responsibility for cleaning roadside, cleaning up Whippany River, beds of the river
Okay.
have been cleaned. We have river cleanups have been done by Bayer, Barclays Bank.
Yeah. A.J. Gallagher.
A.J. Gallagher, so,
And Bear Healthcare.
yeah.
And we've also had the scouts do cleanups along Route 10 in the past.
Okay, I just wanted to see if that was being done. If not,
And the
to try
Whippany
to help
Watershed
out.
Action Committee as well.
I found the website for that, so I was going to look at helping them
Yeah.
out. And my last thing, I might run out of time, but I noticed one of the issues that we've been having with a lot of the discussions online about the town and what's happening is that some people don't know what's happening because it takes time out of your own day to go to the agendas and read everything and then read the minutes and find what's being proposed. And people get upset because they think things are happening in secret, and they're not, but they're not being presented that like right in front of them. And I was thinking a good way to maybe help that out is if we have a current Facebook page for the township, but I don't know if the township has its own Facebook user account that it could use to post up official updates to people on a weekly or bi-weekly basis into that group, so that we get something coming from an official standpoint, just summarizing things in regular terms instead of using lot and block numbers, use actual addresses. And I'll just close really quick with an example. One thing I noticed was in the planning board, we have a plan to transition the old firehouse into Starbucks, and that's posted, but not like on Facebook. So that's just an example of something we could be proactive to present to the public, and then people will say like, oh, look, we're being informed of this all ahead of time. It's just an idea. I know it takes a lot of time. I'm willing to volunteer to help
Thank
ease
you.
that. And
Yeah, at this time, our method of communication is the municipal website.
Right,
That's
right.
our primary method of communication. Township went through a significant investment. Many people were involved in it, in improving that website. So we would encourage individuals to go to that website, while at the same time, the township will be open to ideas, and we can discuss it, about the use of social media, and trying to understand the upside, the downside, and the costs associated with taking on an additional fee to communicate. Because we do use our website, we do have print available, as well as all of our meetings are video recorded, in an effort to best communicate. So I hear you, I understand what you're saying, and, you know, we'll discuss it. That's the only thing I can say. Economic Development Advisory Committee has been very active with that point. So it's not something which is falling on deaf ears, I can tell you that.
right, I agree that the website is very effective. Just trying to help out and offer my own time to help transition that if need be. So
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
That's
Okay.
Doug Eman, 48 Washington Ave. Good evening.
Good evening.
Again, thank you as always for all of your time and service. I'll make it a point to say that each time I come. I know the time that you do put in is time away from friends, family, and other activities, so thank you very much. Appreciate you for that. With that said, it does open you up to sometimes comments from the public. I know social media here can be taken as a four-letter word sometimes. Rightfully so sometimes, and other times possibly not. Sitting up there, you are in the spotlight constantly, and sometimes open yourself up for criticism. Again, sometimes warranted, sometimes not. I would say it may come along with the territory when you do decide to run. A general comment I want to make was regarding a post, which some of you may or may not have seen this past week, from a member of one of our township committees. I'll keep it under 4 minutes tonight. From one of our a member on one of our township committees. And there was several responses to that post from other members of township committees and boards. And I know you all hold yourself to the highest standards. I don't see posts from you on social media reacting to sometimes comments directed at you. And I know that does take a lot of restraint at times. But I wonder if this same level of restraint should be, our other members of boards and committees should be held to that same level of accountability and leadership. If you're sitting on a board, you are representing this township. And again, I go back to restraint, right? You may not like what people post on Facebook and social media, but again, it comes with the territory. So when I see a post from a township resident who sits on one of our boards directed at other residents of our township, I don't think that is good for our community, right? I've talked about trying to build up the community, bridge the gap. And when you have individuals that sit on boards directing negative comments at other residents, I don't think that sends the right message. So I just want to share that. I was very disappointed at that. Get it, if you want to have two residents back and forth, so be it. But if you're going to sit on a board, hold yourself to a higher standard of accountability. All right? Done with that. Wasn't going to say anything else other than that, but just adding on to Chris's comments, there with the Facebook page. I think you have a different demographic. Excellent idea. I think with having an account for the town to maybe post maybe some press releases, highlight some nice wins, get some more information out there. I highlight demographics, talk about millennials. Millennials more on social media, not so much on the town website. I personally highlight how great the website is. I love it. It has helped keep me involved. Outstanding job on it. The alerts, can't live without them nowadays. So I see the updates, agendas, gotten used to it. Great. I think there is a different demographic though where that Facebook page would benefit having an account to say, hey, by the way, Starbucks coming, great news, where people start to see maybe some of the developments in a different light. So I just wanted to echo and add that on to Chris's comments. Also to Chris's comments, last thing, in Randolph, former town where I live, cleanup day, they did have an organized cleanup day, which I had participated in 2 times. Brought the community together at organized. People difference of opinions, all working towards the common good. Sometimes that can help bridge the gap as well. So appreciate that we do have local groups trying to help clean up the community, but a community pride cleanup day may also help go a long way to bridging some of those gaps. So thank you for your time again. Appreciate all your time and
Thanks for
service.
coming out.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would have questions or would like to address the Township Committee? Seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to close this portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. At this time, we'd like to have our attorney, Mr. Samrow, represent where the town is regarding affordable housing obligation developments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The update that I have is the court has given the township additional time to come back with its final compliance plan. We originally had a plan that was approved, and the overlay zones were not adopted by the Township Committee, and so we're in the process of exploring all legal-ish options and alternatives to see what can be done with respect to the fact that those overlay zones were to address an affordable housing component, and yet at the same time it's not that easy with the process to just take those zones and turn them into something else. There's quite a bit that goes into it, and you have Fair Share Housing taking the position that, well, if everyone starts moving the overlay zones, then these agreements will not mean anything, because then we're just going to have particular municipalities say, let's just change our overlay zone. We don't want this. We want it here. We want it there. So it's a very difficult process to make sure we get the special master and the Fair Share Housing in agreement with any type of different direction that the township may take. Any decision or agreement would be part of a public meeting and a public discussion. But right now, we continue to work and try to explore those alternatives because at this point in time, we do not have full compliance with our third round housing plan. We have immunity and protection, and all of that's in order. But as far as fulfilling the terms of the actual settlement agreement, those overlays still are out there for the township, and we continue to negotiate with Fair Share Housing to see if there are alternatives available. Fortunately, we don't have, this is what happens often when you have situations in other municipalities that want to change overlay zones. You have a developer who wants to develop the property running into court saying, what are you doing? You're getting in my way. That's not the case here. There isn't anyone that was suited to develop the property, so the court asked specifically if these overlay zones were to change, would there be any developer or landowner that would be challenging such a decision? And I don't believe that to be the case right now, because those properties, fortunately, were not part of any any formal plan except for an overlay to make the obligation. So we continue to look at some alternatives. The time will run quickly as we do that, so, and explore those options. And there are options that we're not at liberty to discuss at this point in time because every option that's discussed, otherwise you're going to be in breach of essentially what is an agreement with Fair Share Housing and a court order. We have to speak about it internally and what the implications could be before we take that public action and we negotiate a settlement. So we continue to look at those options to find 99 affordable units in lieu of the 2 overlay zones, as the Township Committee gave that direction last November. And that's really been the most significant part of the affordable housing project right now and obtaining that compliance. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher could not complete his remarks during the reorganization meeting because he had important responsibilities conducting a special event. So at this time, Mr. Gallagher, would you share with us your...
Thanks, John. I'd be happy to. And I'll be quick. First of all, I've started every series of comments at a reorg meeting with thanking Joe Giorgio. A lot of people chastise me that I always quote and refer to musicians and songs and different musical eras. But I always say James Brown's reputation was that he was the hardest working man in show business. Joe Giorgio is the hardest working man in Hanover Township. And Joe, you and your staff are the best. I appreciate you. And hopefully we work together for years and years. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you. Just a couple thank yous. And to address something you said about our website, and I want to thank Committeeman Cahill, because we all used to sit and listen to everybody. And it's really difficult to listen to somebody speak for 10 minutes. And especially when they get into the weeds on detail. And Brian said if we put together a great website and put a lot of details on there, it would make it a lot better for our residents to stay in touch by going to the website and not having to sit through us speaking for 10 or 15 minutes about poundage of sanitation and recycling and cutting lawns. So from there, I would just like to say that I want to thank our Hanover Township municipal family. We have beautiful people in this town that work very hard, and this is a second home to them, and I appreciate them. And I'm just going to list a few that I deal with on a regular basis. Brian Ferran in the DPW, incredible professionals, great leadership, great services, and again with the trash, we don't say it too loud, but that is included in our taxes. And even my mom lives in East Hanover. Their taxes are great, but they also get a bill for their trash. So there's a lot built into our low tax structure, and a lot of it comes from good business and good leadership. And Brian Ferran is absolutely one of the best out there, if not the best. I'd also like to thank Chief Mark Roddy. Although Brian's public safety, we do a lot with the drugs and the kids and the programs and the positive choices. And Chief Roddy and Hanover Township PD are an incredible group of people. I'm the biggest supporter of our law enforcement. Ironically, today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. I have a lot of law enforcement officers in my family. My nephew is now in the academy. He got hired by Livingston. So I just want to say, Eric, I know what you guys do. I appreciate what you do. And your whole department's great, and thank you. And I can say you got a governing body up here that all supports you guys 100%. And thank you, and God bless you guys, and be safe. You know, I can go on and on with different people, but I won't. But I will tell you there's a lot of great people here that give us a lot, and a lot of the input from our residents is very important. And our body, all our committees and our boards, very dedicated group of volunteers, and we always want more. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up and just say thank you. Thank you to everybody. And we joke and sometimes say we run in front of the camera to Jim Lent and take credit for things that are good, and we hide in the back when things aren't good. But we don't micromanage the day-to-day in this place. Joe Giorgio does, and the department heads do. So God bless these guys. They're great. Thank you, and it's great working with you. Happy New Year, and that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman Gallagher. This is a special announcement on behalf of our pets, to those who are pet owners. If you have a cat, if you have a dog, You probably have gotten something like this in the mail. This is the pet renewal license, and I highly recommend that you submit it by February 1st, because if you do so, you're going to save about 45% of the total cost of that licensing. So please do the right thing, do it this month, and submit your application for the licensing of your pet.
John, one more comment.
Sure.
I have to thank Fred Samarow. He just left the room, but 2019 was so difficult, and I hope 2020 is better. I even said to Mike and Brian, you guys might be crazy for wanting to run to do this again, but Fred is unbelievable. I can't tell you how many times after work I was just about to jump in my pool, my phone would ring, my music would go off, and it would say, Fred, Township Attorney. So I'd have to close up my phone nice and tight and stand on the stairs to talk to Fred. But Fred is amazing, and he became a dear, dear friend. So thank you, Fred, even though you're in the back, probably on the phone. And that's it now, John.
Okay, great. So at this point, if there's no other business, I'd like to call to adjourn the meeting. No. Comment?
Spare you guys the pain. But I do want to thank the public. There's some good suggestions that came out tonight. Thank you very much. That's some good ideas. Please keep them coming.
Motion adjourned?
Make a motion.
Say.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Giorgio. Not a problem. No, they already were all commented out. They commented and
You want
commented.
to sign the resolutions in the back? And,
Sure.
I'll give it to you inside.